the most exciting and interesting discussion about insurance. It's my favorite. You know what you get when you have 50 insurance agents this deep in concrete? A good start. Yeah. Good start. Okay, so 3 years ago, our market our market's been around for 37 years. And it has been flying by the seat of its pants up until then. So our insurance company assumed that we required all of our vendors to have their own insurance. And it was actually in the policy for 20-something years that was a requirement. So if we had ever had a claim, we would not have fulfilled our insurance criteria and they wouldn't have paid out a dime. So, unbeknownst to us, lucky, thank goodness, the stars, whatever, our market's still around. But then I went to go renew, and the market, the insurance provider wanted to actually see those policies for the first time. And I was like, let me get to my board, I'll see what we got. So nobody had insurance. We didn't even have a requirement that people actually showed us that they had a valid business license in Alaska. Oh. So we had some work to do. When I went to the board and said, okay, we got to get everybody to have insurance. They're like, okay, great. What's that? I showed my farm. I have a farm that we grow vegetables and been there too. We carry a liability policy for our farm, and it's $365 a year-ish for $1 million liability policy. Through Country Financial, you can do. Ken Murray does it. All sorts of different insurance policies. It's a good business practice to have insurance at your farm because you're one suit away. I'll give you a good example. My neighbor down the road had been farming for 2 years. He had a friend out helping him put up some stuff. They're using ladders and hammers. She left the hammer on top of the ladder, moved the ladder, the hammer fell off, hit her on the head. She had no health insurance. She's a young farmer. He didn't have any money, neither did she. Well, to pay for those medical bills, which she had, she sued him. And then the workers' comp found out that she got hurt at work, and he didn't have workers' comp insurance, and they sued him. And it has been 17 years since then, and he is still trying to pay that off. He's been working out of a hole since then. So he hasn't lost his farm, but he's really lost his income. And man, it's a struggle when you're farming from a hole.
How far would this policy you just described from Country Financial protect you in that situation?
It would. It's a liability policy up to $1 million.
Up to $1 million, just general liability.
General liability. You know.
So against workman's comp.
You need to have
that's separate.
That you need to have a workers' comp policy. If you have people coming to your farm and they're working there, or even if they're volunteering, the hard thing is if you tell a workers' comp insurance agent that you're trying to cover volunteers, they won't give it to you because it's a worker compensation program. You have to say, we're paying them, you're either paying them room and board, you're paying them with veggies. Extract the value of whatever you're giving to your volunteer, your worker. That's your payment. You have to show that you're paying something. The minimum payment for workers' comp policy is like $800, so you're going to end up paying $800, no matter if you paid a dime. Like I had $1,500 or so of labor last year. It was these weed guys that came to weed, and I ended up paying $1,000 or so in workers' comp for that. But I still have a farm, and I'll continue. Well, that's all well and good that I was able to get an insurance policy for my farm, and so with this requirement, I would have been able to sell at the farmer's market. But I'm not the only farmer, and other farmers have other situations. Our largest produce vendor at the farmer's market went to go to Country Financial and get that same policy. Well, they went to his property to check it out. His house is on the property. He built his own house. It's not 100% to code. They will not give him a business liability policy for his farm. He can't have it. There's just nobody's going to write that until he takes that house up to code. Well, I was about to have to tell my largest produce vendor that he could no longer come to the market. He'd been there for 20 years, and this is a requirement. Everybody has it, so I was freaking out, Well, the internet was amazing. So I found this, and it's a vendor liability insurance program through Francis L. Dean. And what it is an umbrella policy that the farmer's market can sign up for. My insurance agent, any agent will do this. They set up a private link for us. So this is our application, let's see, on our website. And I have this is new. the insurance is requiring every vendor to carry this liability, and I have a link that you can click on. And what it does is it takes you directly to this, and we go through Hale and Associates. They're our insurance agent, and they get the Francis L. Dean. You can go. This is something else I learned. If you go to your insurance agent and they call Francis L. Dean won't deal directly with you anymore because they don't want to have, these two things. So don't call your insurance agent. Just call Francis L. Dean, and you don't have to deal with paying that agency as well. But I didn't do that. I told my insurance agent, I found this Francis L. Dean thing. Can you help me out with this? She's like, yeah, great. Yeah, I'll do that.
And you'll pay me.
That's right. So
he was able to get coverage through them?
So the difference between this Francis L. Dean policy and the business liability policy that I carry is that this policy only covers the vendors while they're at the market in their 10 by 10 space. That is insured for the day and time they are there. This is a 6 month. This is a variable length policy. As you go through and you fill out your information in here, the next page is how many days are you wanting to sell at the market. There's different options. So 1 to 4 days is $50, and 1 to 4 to 7 weeks, or it just keeps going up to $205 for 6 months. And so for our market, that's what it costs. So you can go in here, fill all your information out, click the amount of time you want your insurance to last, and then it immediately emails the farmer's market a confirmation and a proof of insurance.
Nice.
With the Tanana Valley Farmers Market named as an additional insured, and this is what our insurance company wanted.
Yeah.
But it's all.
You can set up for if you're only there 1 day a week for 8 weeks.
Okay, so if you're only there 1 day a week for 8 weeks, you're paying for the 8 weeks. It's not just 8 markets. Yeah, it's not 8 days. So if like at my market, we have 3 markets in a week, so they can do 2 weeks for $50 and give them to 6 markets. But so if you have 1 market, you're paying by that. In the end, if one person eats a vegetable and gets sick, really, in the end, suits go after the big money. So though that they happen in that vendor, and that vendor might be named in a suit, the farmer's market's really the one that's going to be holding the bag in the end. But we have a $2 million policy that we cover. That's why we had to get this. So we do have more coverage than the vendors. It is a struggle to tell anybody who sells not very much at the farmer's market, and those people that we used to let people come, and it's $20 to become a member of our market association. It used to be $20 an application. You can come vend that day. You can come in the morning and fill that out, and the manager would put you in a spot. At this point, you can kind of still do that because with this insurance, my first year, another lesson learned: don't have them fill these things out and bring the information to you before you even go through. Have this link set up, because my first year I didn't do that, and I had the information, and so they all took it and filled it out and gave me a check for $205 and put it on my desk, and then I entered every single vendor's information into this. And man, I will never do that again. I think we had 200 vendors that year, 216 people got insurance that year. That was more paperwork than I had ever done in my life.
The market itself have the Francis L. Dean insurance too, or do you have?
So it's an umbrella policy. So we sign up, and it doesn't cost us, I think it's like $100 for us to have the umbrella. And then all their money is coming from the individual vendors.
So essentially all of your market and most of your vendors are covered by this deal?
No vendor, I'll go back to our application here. All of our vendors, they are required to have business liability insurance to set up. They are not allowed to come for one moment and set up and sell without the business liability insurance. And to receive the business liability insurance, the next page, it asks you for your Alaska business license. You have to have a valid business license number to get the policy. So what happened the first year when this was instituted, it was a lot of ruffled feathers, people who sold like $50 in a day, small-time bakers, that kid that comes in every once in a while, that was shut down. And there's not much I could do about it. I'm still working with right now is to try to have an umbrella policy that we scholarship to folks so that when that kind of thing happens, that someone didn't know this is a requirement and this kid shows up with like a big bag full of tomatoes, like we can work it out. We haven't figured that out yet. So with this, yeah.
If you had a big grower like yourself, for example, who with their own policy come on Saturday just to show up with $20, their policy, a copy of their policy and everything else that you require for the day, would you let them set up? Okay.
So if a farmer showed up and he had his business license, all that stuff.
Like your State Farm or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. As long as it has Tano Valley Farmers Market stated as an additional insured on the bottom, come on in.
Okay.
I'll get you a spot. First come, first serve. You remember.
What's your maximum? Do you do you have different fees for different types of vendors?
No. So our fee structure is we do a percentage and a table fee. So
For your insurance.
no. So it's all the same. So our hot food vendors, our very first year, that's a good question. Our very first year, we were really worried about foodborne illnesses just in the hot food vendors. We have 11 hot food vendors. So we didn't even let them sign up for this Francis L. Dean. We were worried, oh man, there's way more risk on that. They need to go find their own. We don't even want to have them in our umbrella. Well, when I talked to the insurance agent. She's like, that's ridiculous. You have no more exposure. They're covered in their space. So yeah, hot food vendors, farmers, crafters, everybody. It has the same insurance access. It just depends on duration of the market as how much you pay.
And how much did that run? If somebody was there for your whole market, what's my?
$205. $205 for an entire summer. It's nothing. I mean, that's, yeah.
That is covering what?
And that is covering your 10 by 10 space,
So if somebody falls on your stuff,
gets sick, takes your honey home.
So it's both commercial, it's both general liability and product liability.
Yep,
so if they go home and make a salad and they get sick, they aren't going to sue me.
they might.
Well, but I mean, it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But
this
you'll
is,
have insurance.
you'll have insurance because that sale happened in your insured space
Okay,
because
so
we're
that was my
rent.
question. You said it covers you while you're at the market, but
And what the products are when you sold, but not when you go home and if you
Yes,
had,
gotcha.
right.
Okay.
And I'm
What we-
assuming then that the policy that you have, if they trip and fall in the aisle between it, that's your policy.
That covered. We're covered with that. Someone gets bit by a dog, blah,
Yes.
Is that one of the, go ahead. Well, because yours is a group policy. We have a group policy too that we get through our agent through West Bend. You have a better rate on yours. And ours, I'm fine here.
We're glad to. Still glad
Our guy, we have higher insurance rates for craft people.
What?
Yeah, because they say the crafts are the most risk because if you have a handmade stool and someone falls off the stool, that's more. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a better deal.
This is
a good deal, you guys. I mean, I've seen some.
the Pierce steering, and that's more liability than.
Camel's risk is $600 a year.
Wow.
It would also cover you at your farm stand because this will be specific to a farmer's market.
So we
right?
see it as we rent
Yeah.
at 10 by 10. Your business is a 10 by 10 square for that day, and this is your house. You're in charge of that. I rented it to you, and this is one reason that we don't have 501c3 is that we are for profit, and I rent spaces for profits, and so this is It seems to work pretty well now. After the first year, and I got this link. Last year was the first year with the link. It is very smooth now. Actually, people are. I'm not distracted. People were worried the first year that they were paying me $205 and like.
Nobody. Open it. Turn it off.
It's Selena's bag.
She's upstairs.
halfway up, and then just walk away. Leave it as an unattended bag.
Another thing, it's really important. So, like, one thing it's really important to read the fine print on your insurance policies because if you don't, there are things in there that you don't know you're required to do. Or so our first year, I didn't read the details on this. And I had a guy who smiths his own knives and he sells his own knives at the market. And there are people that did massage and different things. This excludes things of what kind of vendors you can be. So it's on here, you know, body piercing, fireworks, hot wax, like if you have wax hands or...
Let's do soap.
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it doesn't cover live animals.
We can't have them in our-
It doesn't cover massage, medical testing, motorsports, blah blah blah, oxygen, aromatherapy, things like this. So do read
Yeah.
what it is. So some of my vendors,
Vehicles in motion.
some of my vendors didn't qualify for this policy, even though it's meant for them.
Yeah.
So the guy who sold knives, he had to stop selling knives.
Until he got his own personal policy.
Boom.
Yeah.
So then he's like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I know this other one, which is a liability. And you know, I think a really important thing for us market managers to think about our vendors is, like, I do think it's an incubator, but one thing we need to pass on is good business practices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good business practices include carrying insurance for your business, you know? And if we can build that in the small business at the beginning, this is a cost that you pay from the get-go. It's built into your system. You always have that, you know? And so this is something like, it's hard to swallow, but it's really a good pill. It's good medicine, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it's so simple that this is all you do is you
So
just...
Brad, based on this new policy coming into play, how many vendors have you lost because of this?
Okay,
In all honesty.
2.
See, yeah.
I had, and both of
Did you say
these...
2? Okay.
2. And you know what? Both of these guys, they just wouldn't pay. I'm not paying $205. One guy, he sells blueberries that he goes and harvests. He's like, I'm not going to make my money back. It's like, Seth, you sell $500-600 in a day of blueberries. Why would you not pay for the $205 so you can make your however thousands of dollars through the season, right? He's like, it's a small section of time in the summer. I'm like, you don't even have to pay $205. You can pay $50. No, I'm not doing it. The other potter, he was like, I can't, you know. Those are the 2 vendors I lost.
Wow. That's,
We had some, here's the thing. If you have friends, and most of our market vendors are partners, they feel like they're partners, and they've been with each other, and they know that lady who's not going to be able to sell. Or I have one guy who comes and sells seed potatoes for like 2 weeks at the beginning of the season. As long as there's a vendor who does have this policy, who's willing to have your potatoes on their table and put your sales on their assessments,
okay.
it's something that they're being nice because that goes on their taxes at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But if it's just a small thing, like you got $50, you're gonna sell here $50, find a friend. Go set it up at their table.
A new farmer's market thing, find a friend.
Yeah, find a friend. And you know, in the end, when that happens, when I see this happen, I make them the person who's coming become a member of the association at least, so they're somewhere in here. But I kind of turn a blind eye. Also, I've never had an insurance agent show up and audit me and let me see your papers. Let me see your papers. But it's good practices. This is how we're going to be. But that's the way around. That's the workaround. Is that like, and some I have places where there's 2 tables real close. Yeah, it's the same spot. They're in the same spot.
Yeah.
You know, but it has to be claimed on this person's assessment, so they have to be willing at the end of the year. They're going to be paying taxes, so make this person pay you a little bit or something.
How can you know that that's happening though? I mean,
Okay, so we are an assessment-based fee system. So I don't have to go through all these things to find out my sales. I know exactly what everybody sells every day, and they report at that day. At the end of the day, I walk around with envelopes with an assessment sheet that has a white and yellow copy. They fill it out, they keep the yellow copy, they turn in the white copy with a check or cash, preferably a check. And then at the end of the day, my treasurer and myself, we process all of that.
They pay that day.
That day.
Nice.
I ring a bell and I tell them they're not even allowed to start breaking down. Count your money. I will be here till 10 o'clock at night. If you break all your stuff down and go home, I have a farm to go break down after also, so get your ass in here. And it takes us a couple hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours to count all this money. And I have a cash register that's connected to my QuickBooks. So it's just like, boom, right in there, you know? So this is how I know our market, people on that blacktop did $1.35 million in sales last year. And that's because I got 10% of all of that. And you know what I'm spending that money on? Them.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that's
So that's how you know.
that's how I know
Okay.
who's selling what, how much that this person, and I don't know what that friend sold. I just know that this farm did a little bit better than they did the week before. And we have been here for 37 years. It's an honor-based system the whole time, and it's worked.
So from a liability standpoint, though, you've got, Mr. Small Potatoes here sharing a table with me, and I say, oh, yeah, he's with me. But if we're real loosey-goosey and nobody's reporting, I mean, from a liability standpoint, does it? if something
Liability,
happens-
you are taking the liability for that person. So if
Yeah.
they are selling something that you are unsure and you don't feel to take that risk,
Don't sell.
don't
Yeah.
let them sell.
But
I
if
mean,
I'm a moron and I do. and
You're
now we've got a
responsible.
situation-
You are on the hook.
when you make a decision, usually there's an opposite and equal reaction to your decision. You know?
But
And,
I'm thinking from the standpoint of I bought your insurance, this person didn't,
yep.
but I'm selling their stuff.
Yes.
It's your
That's your
responsibility.
choice,
You
yeah.
took that on to that's the
But I buy
workaround,
insurance.
right? You bought the insurance. He didn't. You made the decision to let him put his stuff on your table in your store, which is this 10 by 10 space for the day.
What you're really doing here is sidestepping a resale. In Minnesota, we would call it a resale.
We're sidestepping it, and it's a big for us in our bylaws. You're not allowed to sell other people's stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's why I make them become an association member, and they have to be there with you that day. It's a sticky situation, you know.
It's like that compromise you made to help everyone.
That's right. So and this, it's definitely a workaround, you know. Yeah.
Oh, is that why you're so strict on the 10 by 10 space, that they stay within their space? Because if anything happens in that space, it's on their insurance first. But if it's outside that space, then it falls to the market. Is that one of the reasons?
Maybe I before the insurance was necessary, I am a big believer in managing with consistency. Like,
Yeah.
this guy can see me not letting him, like, put it in, and
Yeah.
this guy has a crate that's sticking out. Like, no. I'm not standing in one place for 8 hours, but they are. They see everything. They know what's going on at that guy's stand, in that guy's house.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. So if I see something outside of 10 by 10, this is a rule we all abide by.
Yeah.
Your music's too loud. Turn it down. You know, like, there's just, it's consistency, and actually it leads to, like, happier people, I'm pretty sure, you know? And at first I felt like an asshole, for sure. Be like, hey, I'm pretty sure that's sticking out of your 10 by 10. Is this an 8 by 10 tent? Oh, okay, that's fine, you know, like, anyway.
Here's your square.
So, yeah, that's, and really in the end, now people are like, and this recording, and I'll get off the insurance for just a second, but like with the recording, I have vendors now that call me and they're like, hey, can I get my numbers from August?
Oh, dear.
Sure you can. I'll get you that. I'm going to file this thing. I'm trying to, yeah, I got that. Boom, boom, here you go. And I can look and see who's my big sellers. And we had this thing about the previous manager had like bent some rules and let some market vendors in that were way too big. And those market vendors, like, we're really helping, like, businesses outside of the market. Anyway, it's a greenhouse. We're big and we're bringing all sorts of money to the market, and you guys need us, and blah, blah, blah. I went back and I looked at our numbers, and I'm like, well, actually, you're not even one of our big sellers. We don't need you. Our market will be fine without this, you know? Anyway, yeah, numbers are good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think the percentage, so we're at a point now that we're actually getting rid of our space fees, and we're just going to the percentage, because we have,
Because it's a membership.
All right, talk more about
That
that.
makes sense, it's a lot.
what's that?
Talk more about that percentage fees and why you're now even, you're saying you're gonna take 10% of sales?
10% of sales, and that's high. So
But
before,
then you're not having a vendor fee anymore, you're transitioning out of that?
right, okay, so back when we were at our market started in a parking lot, trucks and pop-ups at a fire station. They moved to the state fairgrounds and did that there. Then they wrote a grant, state gave them money to build a building, so they built a building at the fairgrounds.
Because it's a certified farmer's market? They have that in Georgia, certified farmer's market could get state funding and they built facilities.
I don't know, there was just money. There was all sorts of oil money back in the 90s, you know, late 80s, you know.
Yeah.
So there was money that was allocated for that. They wrote a grant. But then there was no parking at the fair, and then when the fair was going on, it was like really hard on the market, and then we had to clear everything out of the building because they stored boats in there in the wintertime, and like the farmers instituted, and at that point, all it was a percentage, the 10%, and there was no space fees. Well, they instituted a market fees like $10 for your space, $20 membership, because they wanted to buy a property down the street. And they ended up buying the property down the street and picking that building up and driving it down the road and putting it on their, I don't think they even asked anybody if they could take the state building to our property. They just lifted that thing up and took it. It's ours. And it's at our property. And so those fees were instituted to pay off the property so we could have more income. Well, we paid the property off last year. So we currently have zero debt. And so we did that. We don't need that money from our vendors anymore. I do need to have my operating expenses, and at that 10% with the mean of the last 5 years, we'll be fine. So our vendors are stoked. No $10 every day, no $5 for parking, no electricity charges, but it's still 10%. And that's, we can be sure, I can tell you, these numbers are going to calculate out that we're making money at this farmer's market to pay my salary, to take care of ads. We do lots of ads. We spend so much money on advertising. I think it did $11,000 or $12,000 last summer just on ads, Yeah, and I think eventually we'll get to the point where we start reducing the percentage from 10% to maybe 7%. That's what Olympia Farmers Market does. This is 7% charge for your sales.
But you guys have been doing this for 37 years, and so it's not a surprise. It's not a mystery when someone comes to be a brand new vendor there. No one's,
Right.
I mean, it's a given, right?
It's that market culture.
That's right, it is, exactly.
And that's the hard thing, is to institute something like this after they've been paid
Exactly,
$25.
yes,
Because
yeah.
listen, this guy who sells, our big produce vendor who was able to get our policy this way, and he's super stoked because
Yeah.
he's never carried any insurance for his farm. He carries our market. He pays, think about it, 10% of a big farm. He is thousands and thousands of dollars he pays every summer for the same size table as the person next to him pays us $200 for, $300 for. But it's worth it to him. If you're an artist and you go put your art in a studio, they want a 50% commission.
Yeah.
You come to my market, I only want 10%. 10%. That is a deal. As a business owner, if you're going to market my product, I will easily give you 10% of
Right.
what that costs. You marketed it for me. All I have to do is grow
and
it.
that 10% is coming back to me because you're advertising for me. You're bringing people to buy my shit, and that's
I'm
what
trying
it's
to list
for.
the pros and cons
I'm
of
actually-
doing it that way.
Yeah.
And we're here in Homer, our vendors would raise Cain if we try to ask for, what are your sales? Because we don't have that culture. But if we shift slowly, and let's say we need that, I'm not saying we do.
Sure.
Your model is good for your culture, but let's say we do need that. I know it would be important for scholarship funding, grant funding, and so forth to have an idea of our sales volumes more than an estimate. But I'm just saying to collect a percentage, that tells every vendor you are in business, not just hanging out to sell cookies
Yeah.
or hanging out because you are a very good pickle maker.
Yeah, and in the
that
end,
changes the culture of the market.
Exactly.
Because it is you're selling as your own for-profit business.
right.
But that this community thing, the community aspect of having your community nonprofits, your children's vending, that is a huge component of every market.
Yeah.
So,
So, there are pros and cons.
Using Lauren's example and yours.
Yeah.
So is there any capacity under your system? We have a little old lady that she just wants to come and sell her $5 of lettuce. So it's really her social outing. I would be worried if she didn't show up, right? Because I'm like, oh, she's dead now.
I have this. I have this guy.
So how do you fit that?
I have this guy.
Okay, how do you do it?
He has to pay for insurance, and he has to pay for insurance. He does. He has to have a business license and pay for insurance. I can't let him.
What if they made her, what if you...
Unless what he does is he sets up next to his buddy.
Yeah.
This is his social hour. He's got some bedding plants that he sells. He's a member of the association. He doesn't file anything. He really doesn't sell anything, but it's his social hour. If Larry Duffy isn't there, I'm calling his house. Because,
Right.
did he not make it?
Did he have a...
That's the thing. And his buddy has no problem taking on Larry's liability because it's
a different category, they're like an elderly space that you or the youth, so like.
What I can do is I can waive space fees, or I could waive your 10%. I could waive all that stuff if I wanted to, but they still have to be insured. They
Okay, the
can't.
insurance is your deal breaker.
That is the deal breaker, because someone else is holding my feet to the fire on that one. The board of directors is interested in promoting, new vendors and that kind of stuff, and so I'm giving a little leeway with like my daughter's coming with her jewelry and sitting at my lemonade or whatever. We still do that, It's a workaround.
Well, it is a business incubator, and you never know when that daughter is
Right.
going to shift or what her major in college, whatever she does. in
What
her
we're
future.
trying to do, and another thing about reporting your income, we're training our vendors to have good business practices of recording their sales. That's another positive thing
See,
for your
what
business.
you did here is you came up with a module now, training module that all farmers market managers can take home. I mean, and that's what a state association does. It's changed.
Oh my gosh!
Woohoo!
You're bringing it around.
So, but
I'm giving door prizes to whoever says.
sorry, what's up? Other.
I'm curious about something. So you're requiring insurance, totally get that. What about a vendor that has employees working there?
That's what employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got those.
Yes.
Workman's comp. Are you saying you have to have workman's comp? You have employees?
We have not required that of our vendors. It's so when those employees are at our market, they're in their rented 10 by 10 space. So it is not my space anymore. So if that employee gets hurt in your 10 by 10 space, you have rented it for the day. That is your business
And
space.
it's not a requirement on your insurance policy that the people you rent to have carried the correct insurance. No, it
That
would be, right?
just liability, business liability. So in that 10 by 10 space, if that employee gets hurt, they're going to get dinged. It's like you're in your business. So they should.
That policy that you're talking about here doesn't cover workman's comp.
Oh, no,
It's
this is-
product liability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had, early on when I first started with the farmers markets, I had a vendor who was very serious, very, very professional. He was a CPA that transitioned into farming. And he had his operation going and doing an incredible job. He had employees. And he brought that up to me as a complaint. He's like, this is such crap. He's really put it. That I am paying workman's comp and doing everything right, and I'm competing with the guy right next to me that's got a bunch of his buddies there and not taking care of them properly. And he goes, we are at a competitive disadvantage. And that was the first time, that was like an eye-opener for me, that workman's comp, if you're a business incubator, it's a, yeah.
Yep. And all these farmers who've been at this market for 30-something years, they've been able to sell stuff for pretty cheap because they haven't been carrying all these insurance policies. And then when I brought this to them, they're like, whoa, these are costs that I cannot deal with. My farm can't support these costs. It's like, well, it's going to have to now.
Yeah.
Figure out charging more for your stuff.
Yeah, food. It's cheap food. I mean, the food needs to absorb the cost of it.
Exactly. You gotta put that somewhere else, guys. This is another thing. We're training the businesses of the future of our town, right? And we have like examples of this. So
So you're saying that people like her lettuce person and your Duffy person could essentially, in Duffy's case, you waive his assessment and his fee, and he is sharing sort of.
Duffy's not there. He's a member of our association that is hanging out next to his buddy, and he has a couple plants.
But what do you do with volunteers? Like we have a church organization, they're senior volunteers. 8 of them come and sit around on Saturday and do a little social hour, but they sell baked goods that other people have donated them to sell.
No. Our market is for people. Our mission. Let me see if our mission statement is here.
Do it at their church.
So our mission statement is to support and promote agriculture and horticulture industry in the interior and cottage industry in the interior. That is industry, business. We are here not as a social hour, though I believe the market, our little tagline is meet me at the market. We're talking about people getting together. It isn't a social event, yes, but the purpose of my job is to support business, production, and good practices, and that's what's really great. Invite your friends to come to the market. We need them to come, but hang out, listen to the music, but buy something.
When we let our community partners have a free booth, we do ask them to put us as an additional insured on their certificate of insurance, so that they know that when they're there, we know that they've got insurance, no matter what they're doing.
Oh, we don't give
Right.
them free booth, they pay booth rent.
Whatever.
They're all
We had-
We
volunteers.
would still make them give
We
them
have 4-H come
insurance.
and do a petting zoo at the beginning of the market, first day of market, petting zoo, 4-H. They had to have insurance with us named as an additional insured, even the 4-H kids.
Their own?
No, it was their own.
Yeah.
It had to be their own because they couldn't
They're
fall
not-
under the umbrella because it's live animals.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, so
but
they
they
had
could
to
be
have
there with live animals. They just wouldn't fit under this
I think
thing.
it'll also help when you try to sell the idea that you know, like when our brick and mortars are saying that we take business away from them, we're like, no, because our people pay insurance just like you pay insurance, we have, right? So it helps that argument as well.
Okay, so this is where what we're running up against right now, and this is brand new for us this season. Is the Tanana Valley Farmers Market Vendor Membership Metrics. I came up with this thing this week. So this is because we want farmers to be able to grow, and they're not going to have necessarily come up to a brick and mortar store for their farm. Many of our farms are very far outside of town, so that farm stand thing isn't happening. So we've waited. It's not necessarily just about who you are and what you do. It's about how many employees you have. So this is a weighted system. With this, the intention is to get a low score of 75 or less. And I have a scoring card. I didn't bring it, but for instance, my business is 85% agriculture. You mark that with an X, that's 1 point. If you are food-based, you mark that, that's 25 points already. You got to get 75 or less to be small enough to be in our market. My business has a physical retail space outside of the market is 35 points. Guess what? Well, if you're a hot food vendor and have a restaurant and one full-time employee, you're too big. If you're a farmer and you have, let's see, all the labor hours, you can have 33,280 labor hours and represent yourself at the farmer's market still, because as business gets bigger, that's harder and harder for the owner to represent yourself. But if you represent yourself for 85% of the time or more, you can still be there. So we're not shutting down farmers. They will have, this is their space. But if you are anything other than a farmer and you have over 2 employees, 4,160 hours is 2 full-time employees per year, you are too big. Move on. And what this intention is it keeps us to our mission of cottage industry, agriculture, and horticulture. So this is quite, this,
Email us that?
you can go to our website. It's on our tvfmarket.com.
Is it part of your?
It's part of the application. It's the second page.
Where'd you come up with the numbers, the 85% or the number of labor hours? You make these up, though. You work out a formula to find what's fair for.
Kind of. I just thought about it as myself. Is like, would 90% be reasonable? No. Let's say you got 2 markets that you have soccer games with your daughter or whatever. I'm not there, and I'm only going to be there for 6 weeks. That would screw the pooch with,
Yeah.
But in the end, it's pretty easy to know someone's there for less than 85%. Like if you're every other market, the owners are not there. This is a tool. It's required for them to turn this in. The board of directors still have discretion. If they're over that 75, but it's 77 or something like that, I can take this to the board and be like, look, they're over the number.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to them and be like, you have outgrown the market. This is your last year. I don't kick people out. And this is the thing. This changes every year. So one business last year that was small enough to be in the market, they changed something in their business model. Hey, you've outgrown the market. I go up with a smile. I'm like, you did it! All right!
How many have
What?
How many have graduated?
Quite, I don't even know now. 1, 2, 3. Since I've been there, 2 people have gotten too big. And one's got a pita place down the street, another person's got a taco shack down the road. I mean, it's like, it's happened. We have a tea company. Exactly. We have a tea company who's been there since she was a teenager, but now she has a restaurant, a tea house. She still has a stand there. It's going to be a hard one for me because she's going to fill this out this year, and I know she's going to be over. So I'm going to tell Jenny, I'm going to be like, Jenny, you did it.
You did. You totally won.
But I need that spot.
You should do like a sticker that they can put in their brick and mortar.
Heck yeah, I graduated from the farmer's market. That's awesome. I should totally do that. I'll give him a hat, and turn the tassel,
Red, I'm going to devil's advocate on on that one a little bit. So we have this awesome business in Palmer, fantastic brick and mortar store that brings adds a lot to the city of Palmer. Join the farmers market, draw a little trailer, drums, and I think in your metric right there, it should be out. Right. But change it after first, second market, it's like Arthur, you don't understand what this market means to me. It's actually helping me keep my store open in Palmer.
That's true.
It is why I'm
Yes.
surviving. And
Yeah.
she's like, thank you. Thank you.
So this is what Jenny's told me. I'm already dealing with this. This is a thing. What am I to do about that? Is like, okay, your business model, you need this income and you've built it that you need this income. Can you change something about your business plan that will get you underneath of this 75? I have a greenhouse that this was his issue. He's like, my greenhouse needs the sales because people stop coming all the way out to the greenhouse and I need this. And I'm like, he's selling veggie starts at the farmer's market and bedding plants and all that other stuff at the greenhouse. I was like, well, look, all you have to do, it's a pain in the butt. And it's going to suck. But you can do something to get yourself to be able to sell and be under that number. Get a business license for your vegetable starts. Because your business license says it's not your greenhouse, it's a separate thing. You can come here, and yeah, that costs you $205 for your insurance, it costs you $50 for your business license, and then you have to file probably a pretty easy tax form at the end of the year because you're not going to sell that much because you're only here for this little bit, but you need that money.
Yeah.
You're under the 75 point, come to the market.
Yeah.
We try. My intention is to facilitate people to be successful, right? But also, like, good business practices. And I don't want the other greenhouses in town to come to me and be like, hey, you got Rissy in here. Like, well, how the hell am I not in here? I'm like, well, Rissy jumped through some serious hoops to be here. Here's your application. He's gonna have to spend money to make that money.
Yeah.
But like, he's still gonna be able to make that money. Jenny would be able to do that because what she does at the farmer's market is a little different than she does at the tea house. At the tea house, it's just tea. There, she makes like Japanese little balls and separate business license.
What I like about this, it makes it less, you measure this, you manage it, and yeah, it's not subjective, because you're making some subjective, which leads to chaos, right?
And this is the thing, and and this is the last thing you want is your board to give you more power. Oh, the manager's discretion, he'll decide. I have so much freaking discretion, I don't want it. You know, it's like, and then I'm the a-hole, and they're like, where are you coming up with that? You know,
Discretion gets thrown under the bus.
Does this metric, it kind of pushes out what other markets would consider anchor vendors after, if people get used to a certain consistency of vendors. Some markets have a vendor or two or three that have lines every weekend you can count on. These markets are going to draw people in big time. With this model, that success facilitates you leaving the market.
in the end, so this guy, the guy Lane's Quickie Tacos. If you've ever been up there, he's got a line into the parking lot for his tacos. He has the guy that's got a taco shack now. So he's gone. He's not at the farmer's market. Yeah, he was an anchor. I mean, he's social media amazing. He's got this following. All these young people are coming to the market. They've never been to the market to come get these tacos. Yeah, part of me is like, oh no, we're going to lose that following. But actually what's going to happen is some young person is going to see that as an opportunity. And they're like, I can make tacos. Let me start something new. And they're going to get in there. And we just started a new business in our town.
There'll always be the next taco guy. I mean,
Why not? It just depends on the person. We just need someone's going to see that.
You're just opening the door.
And that's right, because right now, let's say I go to the farmer's market and I see that there's big greenhouses there with like beautiful hanging baskets and all this stuff, infrastructure employees working their stand. It doesn't make me feel like, oh, I can go out and start myself a greenhouse and get going. It's like, oh, dude, this is already full. I can't be here. So if they're not there, yes, maybe and that's the thing about this market is that we're financially stable enough that I can lose a big vendor and be resilient enough to wait for that young vendor to get bigger and make it. So,
Or the ones who've been there to step in and
and
fill
farmers,
in.
this is the thing, after all that, this taco guy that moved on, our biggest sellers are farmers that sell vegetables. They are our biggest anchors. And this metrics, they can be big as long as they represent themselves 85% of the time.
And a farmer's going to sell their vegetables better than anyone else.
Yes.
You know, that's best practices according to.
I wish I had the sale. I show you. I could should the top 7 vendors at our market. We have 11 hot food vendors, and a guy with a wood-fired pizza oven. The top 7 vendors are farmers. I mean, like, hand
Do
stitched.
food trucks have to buy from the farmers at your market?
We don't have food trucks at our market. We have a food henge, we call it. It's just like a outdoor pavilion thing that has 6 stalls that's power, and they set up in there. What was your question?
Do they have to buy from the producers?
That's a good question, and I heard that you have that requirement. I give priority to food businesses that use Alaskan grown or Alaskan produced things. They have priority. They have priority to those spaces. So I have 11 hot food vendors, but I only have 6 of these stalls, which are like the prime. The people in those stalls,
Are doing a restaurant.
they've got Caribou burgers, they've got, local corn, whatever. They're doing the best that they can. They're frying potatoes that they grew, and, it's not a rule, it's not written down, but it's encouraged,
Our vendors will literally put a sign up saying featuring
Yeah,
Kathy's
and
radishes.
they do the same thing. It's a marketing thing.
You're cross-marketing all the time.
People are doing this all the time. They got something sitting on it, and it's like, are you selling their stuff? No, it's just in my thing. Where are they? Over there. So, so that's insurance at our market, and
This is something that concerns me, and has happened a couple of times at the market that I manage. I have a farmer, unloads, drops off, has a big family, leaves a 13-year-old there for the day to sell.
it's in our policy manual.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so it has to all be written down. Okay, 13, right? Okay, so our policy, this just changed. We had it at 16. Your kid can be there by themselves without an adult at 16 selling for you. We actually had a big discussion about that because there's a lady they've been there forever. These girls have born and raised at this market, and one's 16 and one is 14. And the 16-year-old's helping mom now, can drive. And so they, at our annual meeting, was like, can she at 14 represent? Yeah, because it's you. And we know this. We're going to make a caveat for that 14-year-old. But no, it's written down in policy, 16 or above. Think about labor laws, this is a business.
And that was my concern, because I had brought that up, and I was told there was nothing we could do to enforce that, and it's stated in our policy.
If it's stated in your policy, you have to be the police of your policy. No one else is going to do that for you.
In fact, your insurance, if you ever have a claim and you're not following the rules that in your application, they do not have to have. That's how you get back to your vendors. You guys, if we write it down, then we have to follow it, or the insurance will not hold it.
Yeah, your policy is.
that
It's
was
like
a red
I just
flag.
gave out my last policy manual. It's right there, but it's like my Bible. I like walk around with one of those in my pocket, and I'm like always, and I know that thing frontwards and backwards, upside down, and I see something and I have it and I open it and I show them. I'm like, it's written right here. I don't have to say like, you can't do that. They're like, why, bro? I'm like, I don't even say that. I'm just, hey, have you read number 3 on this page yet? The best thing about our application, it says before they sign, it's like, furthermore, I understand that if I've failed to follow the policies and bylaws of Tenant Valley Farmers Market, I will not be allowed to sell at the market. And by signing this vendor application to become a vendor at the Valley Farmers Market, I recognize that my acceptance, it says, I understand the policies and how they relate to the following statements. I have initialed each below, it's significant my understanding. A lot of words, but what it says is, that means they have read and understand, and they initial like 6 places here that they did that. So when they say, oh, I didn't know, no, you can't say you didn't know.
You've already signed this.
Every year, not only once. You didn't just read it once. You're supposed to have read it for 25 times. You should know it better than I do,
We had a non-reader we think we had a non-reader as a vendor. So they sent an educator, happened to be me. I read the manual out loud, made sure, even though we know they signed
awesome.
it, so that they knew the policy. And that was a soft way to enforce our policies. We took our manager and that emotion out of it and just did a nice, soft, warm, fuzzy. He's not nice to me anymore, but
Well, we have a similar thing with the language barrier. So we have folks that come from Delta that are Ukrainian that do not read English. Okay,
we
so
have Russian vendors who are,
I have a Ukrainian policy manual. We had it translated, and so we have spent the money.
If you had Hispanics, you would have to do that too. And it's just-
My job is to support my vendors. This metrics, it might not work for your farmer's market, but you could tweak it. It's just like every farmer, your system isn't going to work at my field. My system's not necessarily going to work at your field, but there are pieces that are the same. Like we both water our crops, you know? So, right. Yeah.
You call your application process, are you leasing people space? What do you call it? Are you leasing them space?
I'm renting them a space.
So just from my education, Alaska has like weird laws for like if someone's a renter and trying to kick them out. I was a landlord maker. And so I met with an attorney, I hired an attorney, and we sat down and talked about it. And his advice and conclusion, when he wrote my agreement with my vendors, was it's not going to be a lease agreement, it's a license agreement. You are licensing, you're going to license your vendors to be at the market. And he goes, it removes those lease agreements that are there to protect renters so don't get kicked out of their home with their children in January or below. He goes, it's going to take you away from those under that umbrella. Because your situation is different than those landlords who are trying to evict someone. But your tenants, if you sign a lease agreement with them or a rental agreement with them, may have protections that could be very troubling.
That's really interesting.
Just because you use the word rental.
I don't think we actually say rental. We just say space fees, but they are paying for booth fees. Licensing. That's not a bad idea to add. Yeah.
And is that, or if you were following the talk, you're trying to get that specific to Anchorage? Is that possible stuff versus?
I don't remember.
I'll talk to my lawyer about it. That's a good thing to bring up, though. And I wonder if we're not leasing, because the insurance company, it's like they need to have their space, So this is your place, and if I'm licensing this, I should ask my lawyer about that. That's really
You might
interesting.
have that answer. You want to shoot that out to our state association. Yes, sir.
So much subtle. You're so subtle. We're done. I'm not really sure what she's saying. I'm not sure. President.
So,
Yeah, that's right. We have ways. We can stop the lights. We have ways.
Your board is very lucky to have you.
thanks. You should call and tell them that I'm trying to get a promotion to executive director right now.
Brought a little button up here.
I want to tell you, I have the existing market, and I want to launch a new market, and I want to follow.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's kind of what I got, you guys. I don't know if we're. You're welcome. And who know insurance can be so interesting.
You made it fun.
Yay!